Good morning and welcome to another episode of Politics and Power on TSLNIGERIA TV. Today I'm having my very beautiful brother here, Mr. Ohis Aborime. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Faris.
Welcome to TSL TV.
Thanks a lot.
We are looking at corruption and governance today, and the effects of corruption in the Nigeria system, and the effects of corruption in our politics as well. And I will start by asking you, what is your perception of corruption as it relates to governance in Nigeria?
Well, Jose Mourinho will say, if I speak, I'm in trouble. So I probably have to be careful with my choice of words. But there's no overstating the fact that corruption has eaten deep into the very fabric of our society. And it cuts across every sphere of governance, whether government parastatals, sectors, industries, MDAs, ministries, departments, agencies who have been bedeviled by so many issues that pertain to corruption. And very recently, we had one with the Accountant General of the Federation. One huge amount came out all of a sudden when they were doing audit again. Another huge amount emanated from whatever appraisal system they were using and all of that. But it goes without saying that we have a lot of work to do. Pre-2015, the mantra was change. We had people who bamboozled us. When I was reading, I always said that, who were hoodwinked, because a lot of people bought into the idea and they voted for the current government. The danger of creating a monster is that it turns against its master. So right now we're learning to tolerate what we can't change. Yeah.
Okay, so you know, in 2015, when this administration was coming on board, the current administration, I would say, there was a lot of talk about the fight against corruption. In fact, this particular administration, this particular president,
they rode on that platform, basically.
Exactly, won that election on the premise to fight corruption.
Yeah.
Would you think that there are some gains in the fight against corruption under this administration?
Absolutely not. Okay. Like going back to Egypt. Yeah. And it really was bewildering, astonishing that the very same people who made up the crop of the previous party's government now came to say they wanted to change things, right? A lot of people were saying, okay, this is the henchman, or this is the man at the helm of affairs, despite the fact that the known faces, of course, the obvious people were the ones backing him, that he was going to be the pioneer and he was going to drive change. But the reverse is the case. I've seen so many situations where we have regretted our decision. Most people who voted for this current government have regretted their decision, privately or publicly.
In 1970, I think the first time Buhari was head of state.
1983.
Yes, I think it was
December 31, 1983.
Yeah. So, and within that time, Buhari was praised to have, his legacy at that time was that he fought corruption to a standstill in Nigeria. And that was what many people who were born at that time, or who were adults
who
at that
had
time,
enough sense to understand what was going on.
The war against indiscipline at that time that Buhari championed then, they could say that was why they voted Buhari in 2015. So what changed? What changed in the Buhari of the 80s and the Buhari of 2015 to 2022 so far?
Well, I wasn't bought over by that rhetoric. That's because I am old enough to know what happened in 1983. I'm not saying I'm an old man, but I read, and of course, I also asked pertinent questions on those who were there and witnessed the entire war against indiscipline. It was spearheaded, to put it in the right phrase, by General Tunde Diagbon of blessed memory. And even though Buhari was head of state, we have seen figureheads as head of state. So thankfully, I'm not on radio. Maybe I would have been fined. But I've seen people who are just there for the numbers. They are ceremonial. And in 1983, I think what made up the crux of his time as head of state was the imprisonment of human rights activists and people who dared to ask important questions. Where is Nigeria going, right? Because, of course, we can say he toppled a democratically elected government led by Alhaji Shehu Shagari. So at the end of the day, we are saying that there wasn't anything. I don't know what the attraction was. Some people said when he was in charge of PTF, of course, he made a lot of raft changes and important decisions that turned the tide. But that didn't convince me because Buhari tried and tried and tried. Some people don't know that he also tried in 1999. So when people are saying he started this thing in 2003, that's because what you don't know, you don't know. So he has started the fight to return as democratically elected president from when we returned back to democracy in 98 or 99. So at the end of the day, there was nothing he was bringing to the table. Some people said they were fed up, GEJ's government, so many corrupt people. They are going to bring incorruptible people to change everything and make Nigeria work again. But at the end of the day, this is the 7th year into his 8th year. Of course, he was re-elected. And nothing has changed. Nothing has changed at all. The situation has nosedived. And that's where we are.
Okay, so now let's take a quick dive into the agencies responsible for fighting corruption in Nigeria. You have the police, you have the EFCC, and you have the ICPC. Everybody knows the story of the Nigerian police force and the massive corruption within the Nigerian police force. You can tell from the way the police is being structured in Nigeria. And then the EFCC recently has become a tool for politicians to harass opponents and all of that. And then the ICPC is largely unseen. A lot of people complained that there was no need for the ICPC. They could have merged the ICPC and the EFCC together. So do you think that we have enough sufficient agencies, or the agencies responsible for tackling corruption in Nigeria are well positioned in the 21st century that we are now to address the corruption challenges that Nigeria is facing?
We have agencies, but we don't have people, right? We don't have people who can do their jobs without fear of favor, right? If, for instance, look at the standoff that happened in Okorocha's house, it wouldn't have happened in any sin crime, right? Recently, the FBI went into the house of a former president of the world's most powerful nation, right? And sometimes I just laugh because the former AFCC chairman was also fingered for corruption. Where is that case today? Where are we at? So if the police, who have become oppressors, with all due respect to them, I have so many friends in the rank and file, but the truth has to be said, and it's very incontrovertible. If the police, who of course, had so many things, responsibilities, they are responsible to us because they have to secure us. Security is in the doldrums at the moment. Corruption is everywhere. It has permeated the length and breadth of our system. So if we need a system rebuild, we have agencies. You can bring forth another agency. Anybody can spring out of nowhere and say he is hell-bent on fighting corruption or combating the ills associated with corruption. But the point is, who will bail the cat? It's in M.O. Diaka's Mastering English. Everybody can come forth with ideas, but who is going to execute? Who is going to implement? Implementation is our biggest problem, right? Even in Edo State, you can shout about 5,000 projects, but seeing is believing. It is what is on ground that matters. And the Nigerian system needs a complete overhaul. The next president, whoever he is going to be, is already unfortunate, with all due respect, because he has a lot of work to do. He has to start from the basics, from scratch. When the foundation of a house is shaky, the house can't stand. So Nigeria, we're running basically on autopilot, right? If we have a if we have a leadership or the crop of leaders that are compassionate, that's the basic instinct of leadership. We've had this morning on one of these WhatsApp groups, I was discussing with a friend and we're talking about Marcus Aurelius. That's one of the greatest philosophers of all time. But people also forget that he was a king. He was an emperor. He was a general. But he was mentally adept. He selected or he picked his general to succeed him ahead of his son. Do you understand? Effectiveness, efficiency, competence, capability over sentiment, over bias. It's a natural succession, monarchy. The monarchical system of government is, of course,
the father dies, the son takes over
immediately.
Yes.
So it's basically a natural succession. But at the end of the day, he saw in the general what he hadn't seen in his son. So that's a trait of leadership that is inherent in people who really care about their people, and it is absent in our society at the moment. And it has been absent for long periods of time.
Thank you very much. So we'll look at the looking at the EFCC again and looking at our political structure in Nigeria, which includes our political parties, our government structure, and all of that. You see, before somebody becomes a president in Nigeria, he has to play politics. And then you know what that means in our own system here. Money is involved. Huge amounts of money is involved. And you could tell from the last primaries that were conducted by the PDP and the APC, you could see the thousands of dollars that were doled out to party delegates, party officials, and all of that. And then the FCC was there that day and said they were there to try to stop it. And someone who, when we're talking about looking for a leader that will be honest, you can't be in a process. You can't imagine someone with a process where the process that brings this person is faulty. I mean, you want to contest for president, and then a whole lot of money is expended in your attempt to become president, monies that you cannot account for, and then you become president. How would someone like that really have the moral justification to point fingers at party officials? Because many of the people who we are talking about now that will now form the government are those people who bankroled.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, how are you going to morally now point fingers at those people and do the right thing? So don't you think that there is an issue of
conflict of interest?
Yes, conflict of interest. Thank you very much for using that word.
I think that Omawumi put it very correctly in one of our songs. If you ask me, who I go ask?
Well, I ask you now.
Yeah, because sometimes some things are befuddling. You collected people's money. Well, they willingly doled it out because, of course, it's ROI. They're waiting for returns of investment when you become president or governor, whatever position you are running for. But that was the first problem I had with the change mantra. They spent a lot of money. I am privy to specific amounts of money spent on media and publicity alone. I am privy to that information, of course. Honorable men don't spill secrets. So, but I am privy.
So were you a member of the APC media and publicity?
Fortunately, I wasn't, and I am not.
Okay, we'll leave it there.
And, so, but I was privy because, yeah, I have a few friends here and there. And if you are spending that amount of money and you are probing the previous government. You said Okpere and these people spent $2.1 billion or $1 million on media, and you are replicating the same template. What moral standpoint are you talking from? Speaking from? If you are going to start probing people for doing the exact same thing that you did, it makes no sense, right? So you cannot be the judge in your own case. So what you have the questions you have asked me are answers, really, because it would take a very intelligent person to understand what you have just said. You have said it, you have mirrored the Nigerian situation. Somebody spent huge amounts of money making you president. You have to pay back and almost double, because Nigerian businessmen, their profit margins are exceedingly high, sometimes difficult to imagine. So obviously, before you start working, or if they allow you to work at all, you have to give them some mouth-watering, juicy contracts to cover up the funds that they expended during the electioneering process.
Thank you very much. So finally, let's look at the composition of government. You have the judiciary, you have the federal government, the state government, the National Assembly, and all of that. And then when we talk about corruption, most times we just look at the federal government, because we think that the agencies responsible for fighting corruption are mainly federal agencies.
Yeah.
Do you think that we'll do better if we also have smaller agencies beaming their searchlights on what is happening in the state level and the local government levels as well?
Well, I disagree with that. I think it's an amount of polarization. I also think that the federal agencies have state presence. They are zonal offices. So that can suffice at any time. The point is the personnel. If you are going to make an arrest, what is the going rate for your conscience? The economic downturn has affected all and sundry. So you don't expect somebody to reject a few thousands or a few millions. That depends on the complexity or the seriousness or the nature of the case, right? No matter how much you try to paint honesty or sincerity, it is in here, right? Somebody who was championing the cause of incorruptibility and what have you is behind bars. He was Nigeria's most celebrated police officer. What happened afterwards? People still came to stoutly defend him after what he enmeshed himself in. Do you know why? Because we hadn't grasped the severity of the situation at that time until so many other sub-incidents started spiraling out of control. So it was like the emergence of that gigantic face behind the mask. When it was unraveled and unveiled, we now saw the real person. You were championing corruption on social media. You even had more followers than Linda Ikeji. Yes, you had more followers than... You are an influencer in Edo State. I know. Before I could interview you, in fact, I even thought, I already assumed that you're a very proud person, because it took me a while before I could hold you down. That's not because you are not intelligent, but because you probably were too busy doing other things and you didn't have time to have a sit down with me at that point. So the truth of the matter is, you have to first of all have a conscience. It is not developed, it is inborn. It's like Abinibi, right? It is there. You have to be able to put your country first. Whatever interests you have must be overtaken by the advancement of Nigeria in a positive light. So if you go and make an arrest and somebody says, how much does it take for this matter to go away? You definitely have a price, right? Don Corleone in Godfather said, we'll make him an offer he cannot refuse. There's no human being that you cannot make an offer that eventually they will accept. So that's where we have to start from. Training, retraining, obviously, part of it, because a lot of these guys, they just sit in their offices. They don't even go for training. Sometimes they pocket the money.
Okay, I'll stop you there, and let me quickly ask you, because you did mention something about having the right person in charge of agencies. So, and what I understand by having, sometimes when we talk about having the right person, is having this strong personality. And I would say that that is the bane of corruption in Africa, because you have people who are stronger than institutions.
Yes.
Do you think that we should invest more in making the institutions stronger than people? Because, like Obama said, there was a time Obama said that in Africa you have weak institutions and strong men, which means, for example, the Nigerian police today cannot arrest the wife of the sitting Nigerian president or the son of the Nigerian president.
You are going too far. The Nigerian police
yes.
cannot arrest the wife of a councillor.
Exactly. So, you know, and the reason is because we've made people stronger than institutions. Do you think that if we empower our institutions to be stronger, we empower our laws to be stronger than people, that we will address the issue of corruption in Nigeria and corruption in governance?
You have heard of secret service agencies such as the Mossad, the KGB,
CIA.
Those are institutions. You think there's no corruption in those organizations? Have you seen Blacklist and a few other series? You'll see that, of course, there are loopholes. Whatever they are depicting mirrors reality, right?
Yeah.
If there is an institutional decay, you cannot cover it with people who are candid, people who are strong-spirited, people who have the mindset of excellence. You have to restructure. You have to re-establish the situation, and that is by making the institution a lot stronger than the men that operate within it. But it is a cumbersome process right now for anybody who is going to take over the reins of this present government, because you have to start from scratch. There was this confab that happened under GEJ. Nothing came out of
2014.
it. There must have been recommendations, but nothing. That's why I said implementation is a problem.
Okay, we don't have too much time anymore, so let me quickly take you on this. When I did talk about maybe having the agencies of government, the federal agencies of government, solely responsible for the fight against corruption, maybe have them in the state level. I would look at the hue and cry for state police. Looking at the police, for example, a lot of people believe that if we have state police, then we should be able to address the challenges of insecurity in Nigeria. Don't you also think that because the police also is supposed to be an agency that is responsible for fighting corruption as well, because the EFCC is a part of the police, the ICPC, they are part of the police. And so don't you think that if we, at this stage, bring the agencies closer to the state level, in terms of the states, I'm not talking about the federal agencies operating at state level, the state governments also having their own agencies to solely beam their searchlight in the state agencies, in the state MDAs, don't you think that will make some progress in the fight against corruption?
So conscripting people into the police force and calling them state police, where are you going to get them from? Are you going to import them? The same Nigerians, are they going to experience something like a re-education or a rebate? Absolutely not. If
No, but,
recruitment,
but many of them know their terrain. If you see the recruitment level at the federal, is that the federal government recruits people, and then because of this, trying to present Nigeria like a country that is united, you take a policeman from Sokoto and throw him to one village in Edo where he knows nobody to be serving. But what the state, those championing the state policing are arguing is that you have people serve in their local communities where they know everybody. I know Mr. Ohis, I know what he does and all of that. So if we try to mirror the agencies fighting government in that, structure them in that manner, don't you think we can make some tangible results?
Competence, credibility, and recruiting people on merit has nothing to do with familiarity. If you are from Sokoto and you come and serve in Benin, and you are effective, and you are competent, knowing people won't be a problem. I do not think the knowledge of people from the onset has anything to do with you being credible or competent. Being competent is a characteristic that will make you merit your current position. Many people who are promoted today actually go behind to press buttons. In different government agencies, some people are promoted after 3 years, while others are promoted after 5 years.
That's true.
The same level. So you find out that this guy be the level 8, he don't do level 12, I still do level 11. Why? It's not like you set exams and one failed and one passed. That rarely happens. Governor Baseki is doing something in Edo State, especially in the civil service now, that impresses me, right? I am not someone who condemns somebody because I don't follow the ladder. I don't have the bandwagon mentality. If there is something you are doing right, I'll point it out. If there is something you are doing wrong, I'll point it out, because nobody is infallible, right? But your strengths have to outweigh your weaknesses. So what Governor Baseki is doing with the civil service is similar to what Nasser El-Rufai is doing in Kaduna. Even though El-Rufai might be overdoing it because of the way he's laying off people in large numbers, that will increase crime, the rate of crime. Because when people don't have anything to do, they resort to the easiest way to make money, right? If income has stopped, you have to make ends meet. If you're a man, your wife is not going to wait and say, until money comes. The money has to come because needs must be met. So basically, you have to be credible enough, you have to be competent enough, and you have to get a position on merit. And that supersedes and completely obliterates familiarity and knowledge of any environment. Knowledge of an environment has to do with your impact assessment. That's it.
Okay, that's all we can take for today. Thank you, Mr. Uhis.
Thank you, Fares. Always a
nice
pleasure.
Conversation.
Yeah.
Please do well to follow our YouTube channel and our Facebook links and everything. Follow TSL Nigeria TV and catch us on Wednesday. We'll come back with a very exciting topic. Bye-bye.